Skateboarding has to be one of the worst ways to make money. It takes years and years to get even remotely decent at, and I'm pretty sure that as far as professional sports salaries go, skateboarding is at the very bottom of the list. If I had to guess, I would say it's just below hockey, but somewhere above ping pong players. With that said, a lot of kids grow up assuming that every single pro skater is super rich, but honestly, other than a few outliers, that just really isn't the case. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the richest professional skateboarders. Now, I actually didn't make this list, but I found this article on the richest pro skaters, and I thought it'd be a good idea for a video, and I'll leave it linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Now, I don't know how they calculate someone's net worth without knowing them, but I figured that they're better at it than me, considering they have an entire website dedicated to it. If you feel like they left someone out, not me, they, because I didn't make the list, they did. If you feel like they left someone out, go ahead and leave a comment and let them know. As always, do me a favor and leave a like, and with that said, let's just get right into it. So to start off, they have Ryan Sheckler with a net worth of $16 million. The article says Sheckler's sponsors have included Red Bull, Panasonic, Volcom, Oakley, and Plan B skateboards. That's a pretty solid lineup of sponsors, and there was a time when Ryan Sheckler was winning just about every single contest, so I'm sure he's made a decent amount of money just from skateboarding. He has also portrayed himself in the movies and on television in What's New, Scooby-Doo, Dish Dogs, True Jackson VP, and the skateboarding documentary Almost Round 3, which is technically a skate video and not a documentary, but if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It's easily one of the best skate videos ever. It also says that Fox Weekly named Sheckler one of the 15 most influential skateboarders of all time, and we all know how highly skateboarders regard Fox Weekly. A few years ago, Ryan Sheckler did make a video showing his $2.5 million house with a Ferrari and a Mercedes out front, so $16 million does seem pretty accurate, and if anything, it might be on the low end.
Still want to skateboard. Every single day of my life, I wake up and I get excited to go skate, and if anything changed, it was the fans, maybe the following. I have a huge following now, which is awesome. It's just great to be a skateboarder.
Give it up for the Sheckler!
Next on the list is Chad Muska, who also has a net worth of $16 million. It seems a bit unfair to put him ahead of Sheckler if they have the same net worth, but I'm not the one who made the list. As far as sponsors go, the article says he has ridden for now defunct companies such as TSA Clothing, Daiko Watches, and Ghetto Child Wheels. Muska has started a ton of companies including Supra, which was eventually bought out by K-Swiss. He's even been in a few of the Tony Hawk games, which I'm sure paid him pretty well. Andrew Reynolds said that he got a $100,000 check just from one of the games, so I can only imagine what Muska made. Now, some younger skaters might not know a lot about Muska, but in the late 90s and early 2000s, he was one of the top pros, so I could easily see him sitting on a decent net worth. $16 million is a little higher than what I would have guessed, but given the amount of companies he's owned, I'm sure he's doing all right. Next up is Steve Rocco, who's an American businessman and skateboarder with a net worth of $20 million. The article says that Steve Rocco co-founded World Industries with Roddy Mullen, and the company grew to become one of the largest and most influential skate companies in the world. Rocco later sold the company and retired. Now, when they say that World Industries was one of the largest skate companies, it's not an understatement at all. In the 90s, World Industries was one of the top brands, and even today, I'd be willing to bet that they make more money selling tech decks than a lot of companies do selling boards. So the next time you're sitting at your job and you're thinking about how much it sucks, just know that somewhere out there in the world, there's a guy who retired off of selling tech decks, and his name is Steve Rocco. Jokes aside, Steve Rocco did do a lot for skateboarding. He helped street skateboarding become popular in the 1990s and used ads that directly related to skateboarders. Rocco also co-founded the companies Blind, Plan B, 101, and Duff's. Judging just by the number of companies that he started, it's not exactly a surprise that he's one of the richest skateboarders. Next on the list is Stefan Janowski. Stefan Janowski is an American professional skateboarder, writer, artist, and musician who has a net worth of $20 million. He's well known for his Nike SB signature shoe model, the Nike Zoom Stefan Janowski, which has to be one of the best-selling skate shoes of all time. The article says that Nike originally resisted his shoe ideas, but he would not compromise, which basically means that they wanted to make a really ugly shoe and he wasn't having it. Let's be glad that he didn't compromise, because the Janowski ended up being a great shoe, and even if you don't like Janowskis in particular, it did lead to a lot of even better shoes with a similar style. The original Stefan Janowski sold so well that Nike remade it into just about every single style, color, and fabric that you can imagine. Aside from just shoes, Stefan Janowski also has a full lineup of sponsors. He skates for Official Crown of Laurel, Venture Trucks, Mob Grip, Bones Bearings, Glassy, and Habitat Skateboards. For someone who's supposed to be worth $20 million, he doesn't really show off and buy houses and cars like most people would expect. He is a club member at the Soho House in Malibu, which is around $3,000 per year, but other than that, it seems like he keeps things pretty modest. Next up is Bam Margera. The post says that Bam Margera is an American actor, producer, stuntman, and former professional skater who has a net worth of $20 million. I guess 20 million is a hard threshold to beat because that's like 3 in a row we've had. Also, when did Bam Margera become considered a stuntman? The post goes on to say he is best known in popular culture as a cast member of the MTV reality stunt show Jackass and his own spin-offs Viva La Bam and Bam's Unholy Union. At various times, he also received sponsorships from brands, even though at one point he wasn't on Element anymore. A couple years ago, Element dropped a video part of him skating, so I think he still skates for them too. Bam did a full interview on the 9 Club where he gets into some of the details on how much he was making during his shows. He mentioned making $1 million off of just one of the CKY videos, selling 40,000 boards per month, which if you don't know, pros usually get around $2 per board, so he was making 80 grand per month just off of board sales. He also talks about how he accidentally burned down his $200,000 mega ramp and then had to pay a firefighter $2,000 not to charge him with arson. And over the years, he's had a ton of nice cars, so 20 million seems pretty accurate.
For street skaters, be like, man, you did a right car commercial, you sold out. You know what? I'm going to sell out again because they just asked me to do another one and they gave me $1 million for one day of work.
Wow.
So I'm going to go do that. I'm going to go sell out again big time.
Next up is Rodney Mullen with a net worth of $30 million. I'm starting to wonder where Nyjah is because we're pretty far down the list and he hasn't come up yet, and I already know I'm gonna get a ton of comments if he's not on here. Anyway, the article says Rodney Mullen is an American professional freestyle and street skateboarder who has a net worth of $30 million. Mullen is considered the greatest street skater and has invented several of his own moves. Now, I don't know if I would call him the greatest street skater since there's a lot of people out there who took the foundation that he made and built on it, but he definitely paved the way. Over the years, Rodney Mullen has been sponsored by Powell Peralta, Plan B, and Enjoy. He co-founded Almost Skateboards, and he also co-founded World Industries with Steve Rocco. Since they later sold World Industries for $29 million, he basically became a multimillionaire overnight and one of the richest skateboarders. Rodney Mullen has also made appearances in a lot of movies, video games, and has even done a decent amount of public speaking. For a guy that's worth $30 million, he doesn't really show it off, but then again, if you've ever seen an interview with him, he doesn't really seem like the kind of person that would. Next on the list is Rob Dyrdek. Rob Dyrdek is a former professional skateboarder, actor, producer, and entrepreneur who has a net worth of $50 million. He is best known for his MTV shows Robbin' Big, Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, and Ridiculousness. Rob Dyrdek definitely made a lot of money skateboarding, but he's made way more on TV and in business. When he was still pro, he was sponsored by Alien Workshop, Silver Trucks, DC, and Monster. Even though he had a solid list of sponsors and those energy drink companies pay pretty well, he still made way more money outside of skateboarding. According to this post, he was making $60,000 per episode on Robbin' Big, $100,000 per episode on Fantasy Factory, and $140,000 per episode on Ridiculousness. Now, I know that he's gotten a lot of hate from skateboarders for doing reality TV, but imagine getting paid $140,000 per episode. Where I live, you could get a pretty decent house for that. Aside from skateboarding and TV, he also consistently builds and sells businesses, and he currently owns around 20 holding companies. Now, I know that some of these net worths seem a bit exaggerated, but I think that Rob Dyrdek's might be even more than what it says. He lives in a $6 million house on Mulholland Drive, and over the years, he's had a ton of nice cars, including a '69 Camaro, a Porsche, and a Ferrari, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was worth even more.
So with Rob, the reason he's such a multi-millionaire, the reason he's such an entrepreneur, the reason he's so epic, mogul, all that, you could take all his money, you could take everything away. He's gonna make it right back. Why? It's his mindset.
Next up is Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk is a professional skateboarder and entrepreneur who has a net worth of $140 million. Tony Hawk has to be one of the most well-known and one of the richest skateboarders out there. The article says that outside of earning tens of millions of dollars during his career from endorsements, tournament prizes, appearance fees, and more, he's also made a fortune just off of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater video games. When he was still in school, he was making significantly more than his teachers, and he even bought his family a house when he was still a senior in high school. Surprisingly, he doesn't really spend his money on anything outlandish. He does have a pretty nice house with a backyard skate park, but even that isn't what you would expect out of someone who's worth $140 million. Some of the details in this article are a little off, and I tried to fact check them as much as I could, but honestly, I don't know a lot of these random details about pro skaters, so if anything was left out, just leave a comment and someone will see it. Also, do me a favor, leave a like, follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff, and thanks for watching.